Welcome to the No Pucks Given podcast. I'm your host, Aidan, and as you can see, and as everyone on Spotify will hear, I'm quite alone today. Nothing new, but but we're gonna have a bit of a shorter episode, so we'll be getting through some of the points quite quickly because I am not the hockey historian, sadly. That is all Chris, but and unfortunately he couldn't make it, but it'll be okay. Hey, I'll guide you through it, and hopefully this episode won't be awful. Yeah, it'll still be bad. But it's because it's just me doing this on my own, and I've never done this on my own. But that's fine. And we got some locker room talk, we got some more signings, and we got a new captain in the NHL. All that and more. All right, so just gonna get right into it then. Like I said, it's gonna be a shorter episode. I'm not used to doing a lot of this on my own, so let's see how this goes. So first off, we're gonna get into the signings. There have been two major signings that one major, one not very major. I'll get into. So the first one, the Colorado Avalanche have signed Evan Rodriguez to a 1-year, $2 million deal. And to my knowledge, this guy has been hopping around the NHL, not getting more than 1-year deals for the last 4 or 5 years, something like that. So it's kind of an interesting deal, but obviously the Avalanche are trying to make up for losing Kadri. So this will be interesting to see what he does. Probably a good, bottom 6 player. Or not a bad signing by the Avalanche. I was wishing that the Canucks kind of signed him because that would be a good depth piece. But oh well. Now the major one I'm going to get into real quickly here. St. Louis Blues have signed Jordan Kyrou to the maximum contract length of 8 years at $8.125 million a year starting in the 2023-24 season. That's a lot of money for Jordan Kyrou, and he's not the only one that they've signed to a long-term contract like that either. I believe they also signed Thomas to an 8 times 8.125 contract as well. So that's interesting. And I know Kyrou is hard on the puck. He's a skilled player, but I don't watch the St. Louis Blues. The only last time I watched them was when the Canucks were playing them in the 2020 playoffs, and we beat them. But so I don't really know too much about Kyrou. I know he's a decent player. Obviously, St. Louis is high enough on him that they think he's worth that money. Personally, I would have said 6 by 7 at most. But again, like I said, I don't watch enough of him, so who knows? Maybe that'll be a steal. And kind of continuing on with that extension, there's been a lot of extensions lately. Obviously, the Canucks have signed Miller to an 8-year extension. Okay, I was wrong. It's 7 years by $8 million, not 8 years. So he wasn't the max length. I got the two switched up. I thought it was 8 times 7, not 7 times 8. But there's been quite a few, so I'm just going to get into them right now. Obviously, like I just mentioned, Jordan Kyrou and Rob Thomas, I believe it is, with the 8 times 8.125 million for St. Louis. Ottawa has re-signed Stützle and Norris for 8 years by 8.35 million and 7.95 million, respectively. Calgary has signed Huberdeau to a $10.5 million contract for 8 years. Obviously, Florida has re-signed Matthew Tkachuk for $9.5 million. Tampa Bay has re-signed Mikhail Sergachev, Anthony Cirelli, and Eric Chernak to 8.5, 6.25, and 5.2, respectively. Colorado has signed Nichushkin to an 6.125 million, and Nashville has signed Philip Forsberg to an 8.5 million average. You know what? You know how much that was in 8-year terms? $87.125 million on the max contracts for those teams. That's a lot of fucking money. Now, like, obviously, they're gonna be well off for a long time. Stutzla has commented saying, and when he first got that contract, that his parents don't have to work a day in his life. He promised them when he was young, saying if they spent all the money to get him like his hockey gear and supplies, now once he finally made it big, they would never have to work a day in their life. That's the first thing he did. He called up his parents. They don't have to work anymore. They can retire. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Stutzla or Ottawa. They're the other Ontario team that I prefer over my co-hosts here, or not here. So I would definitely take Ottawa over Toronto any day of the week. But Stutzla, I don't know, didn't really enjoy a lot of his game. Kid has a lot of potential, don't get me wrong. Just not really my cup of tea. But I don't know, seeing him say that gave me a lot of respect for the kid. So I don't know, maybe I was a little misguided there. Now for the rest of them, I don't know if they fully deserve it. I mean, Sergachev, he's a really great defenseman. Cirelli and Cernak, I have no idea. Tampa Bay has spent a lot of money with those three locked up for 8 years. Forsberg, I know, deserves his contract, but again, he's also quite old. Huberdeau is making the most on that list that I just said with, like I said, $10.5 million for 8 years. And then Kadri signed for 8x8, I think, as well. That's insane. In $18.5 million. That's for those two for 8 years. Well, that's going to look almost as good as the Tyler Myers signing. Well, back half at least. So yeah, there's that. Let's see here. Oh yes, the NHL has lifted their restrictions on locker room media access. So, the league is returning to its normal pre-pandemic media access regulations. So all the clubs were told via email that the locker rooms must be open following all games and practices, and all active players must be made available. Locker rooms have been closed to the media since March of 2020, which means we're going to actually hear post-game things a lot more often now. We're going to hear in the moment and talks on how they feel. Obviously, JT Miller is going to may not be happy with that a lot, but it's going to be so cool to hear and see a lot of these games, and like what they liked, what they didn't like, all the stupid fucking questions that the media is gonna ask them about. But whatever, that's their job. So obviously for people like the rookies the last few years, they didn't have to deal with that. They're gonna now. Hoglander or Podkolzin, and they're all gonna have to deal with media going straight to the locker room after every game. Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting to see how they have to adapt to that new system because they've never done it before. Obviously, 90% of our players have done it, but I don't know. Well, they've obviously probably enjoyed not having the media immediately into their locker room as they're trying to wind down, get their bearings. But that's just the price you pay for being a professional hockey player. And it'll be quite fun to see how that comes about. Man, I'm just flying through my things. I really see, this is the issue with not having Chris here. It's been just under 10 minutes, probably less after this is all edited. But I just went through multiple points in a span of 8 minutes. And normally, how we get a lot of our runtime is talking about a point for 5 seconds and then going off on some other tangent. Here, I just have my points and my limited hockey knowledge of what's going on, and obviously, there's no backstory from Chris on how he saw this thing happen and it was cool to see, but like he really wishes this was the thing, or going off on the Oilers, or fucking yeah. So it's difficult, but hey, I mean, the most fun I can say is I just got a NHL meme page to follow us on Instagram. Hashtag go us. Oh yeah, we fired Geoff Ward V2. Go follow him on Instagram. Elite Flames content. But man, like I don't know. Oh yeah, we now I guess go off and talk shit about the Vegas Golden Knights, because who boy, they're still pieces of shit. They're gonna have to deal with Aidan Hill and Logan Thompson as their goaltending tandem, but not to mention Nick Hague and his camp. Obviously, he's wanting to resign. I don't know why, but the Golden Knights RFA, he's an RFA, which means if they don't sign him or trade him, I believe December 1st, he can't do anything for an entire year until free agency opens back up. They're becoming very concerned with the lack of communication and the lack of talking that management has given them. It says here, defender Nick Hague's camp is becoming concerned with the lack of communication from the club via a new contract per Fox 5 Vegas. They are not progressing at the moment, and there has been very little dialogue since early July. Nick Hague is 23. He is already in Vegas, but will probably really not report to training camp on September 21st if no deal has been reached. But yeah, Vegas is just getting more sad. And that's the thing. September 21st. As of recording this, it is the 13th. As I'm recording this, it is September 13th. Training camp starts in 8 days. Like, that's insane. And obviously, we're going to get out 5 episodes before that. And we're going to get out an episode, looks like, just before training camp starts, which is going to be great. Hate to see how all that comes along. And not to mention, and the Young Stars roster starts soon. Or not, sorry, Young Stars roster. Jeez, I'm a mess, apparently. The Young Stars games starting soon with Canucks versus, I think in versus Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg, I believe. But yeah, training camp starts on the 21st. That is not a lot of time at all. And if very little reports come out about it, and he's just not going to show up in training camp, I really hope he gets traded, because he would be a good defender literally anywhere else. Speaking of defenders, Quinn Hughes today, he again September 13th, which is a Tuesday. This will be coming out on Friday, so you're listening to this as it's a few days old news at this point. And if you're a Canucks fan, you've already heard about this, most likely. But Quinn Hughes, who was playing with OEL. Obviously, you're thinking, OEL is a left-hand D. Why was he on the right side? No, Hughes is. He apparently over the summer has talked to Boudreau and said he wants to try on the right side. Now, if that's the case, that's huge. Because if he can succeed on the right side, which is Quinn Hughes, he has so much ceiling potential, I don't see why he wouldn't. That's amazing, because then if we need more depth on the left side, that's a whole lot easier to get than a right-hand D. And not to mention, that set up some good one-timer options for Hughes as well. Because remember, if the puck's coming over, he can shoot it pretty much right off the hop, which will be helpful. And it gives OEL a lot of good options to be able to do his thing because Hughes is very reliable. Now, that kind of begs the question, who's playing on the second pair with Myers? So I was listening to Sportsnet earlier today, and they're talking about either Rathbone or Dermott. And one of the Canucks' PTO signings. I don't fully remember who it was at this point, or do I really have the time to look it up and stuff. But yeah, so it's likely going to go OEL and Hughes, Dermott, Myers, and then probably who's and then Jack Rathbone and Luke Schenn. That's what I'm saying. I really want to see Rathbone in the NHL. I think it would be good. Give Rathbone more of that. Give them more NHL time, more minutes, because he was fantastic in the AHL last year, as we keep saying on this podcast. And Schenn is a good physical D-man. He'll send up for Rathbone and give Rathbone his chance to do stuff up the ice. While Schenn lays back a bit and defends. Top tier quality, jeez. To everyone listening on Spotify, I'm sorry. To everyone watching on YouTube, I'm sorry. This is going to be a fucking mess, but you got to deal with it because so do I. Either this is going to be the least viewed and listened to episode, or it's going to be the most, and it's not going to be a good thing. But yeah, I think it's going to be cool. And speaking of the young guns, so Canucks have released their roster for the Young Stars Classic. So for forwards, and you're going to hear a name that's very obviously missing here. We have Neil Zeman, Archdeep Baines, Carson Focht, Mark Gatcombe, Justin Gill, Linus Karlsson, Danila Klimovich, Evan Konyan, Connor Lockhart, Max... I apologize if I butcher these names. Namis Tidnikov, Tristan Nielsen, Simon and Pinard, Michael Reed-Gush, Cole Shepard, and Chase Wooters. Now, you're probably thinking, where's Jonathan Lekkerimäki? He's already doing his preseason back in the KHL. He's already getting started. He's not going to be here for this, because he's going to be playing pretty soon anyway. Now, for defensemen, we got Matt Anderson, Alex Canuck-Lepere, Kirill Kudryavtsev. Jesus Christ, what is this name? Dylan McPherson, Chad Nychuk, Quinn Shiminan, Jackson Van de Leest, and Jet Wu. Jet Wu's done this a few times. And for goaltenders, Brett Brochu, Arturas Silovs, and Ty Young, our new gold draft pick. So for me, I'm going to be really watching Nils Iman and Arturas Silovs. Now, Silovs has been around for a while, played a lot of games in the AHL. But last year, I feel like he didn't get nearly enough time to play because the whole role was getting taken over by Spencer Martin and Michael DiPietro. Now that Martin has come up and he's going to be Demko's backup, it's going to be a goaltending tandem of, I believe, DiPietro and Silovs. I really want to see Silovs get a lot more of that attention because he's a good defenseman. He's a goaltender. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at me because I'm a dumbass. We don't use the R word here. Maybe. I don't know yet. Let's see if we get demonetized for that. Not that we're getting monetized yet at all. God, this is a mess. I'm going to keep in a lot of these fuck-ups just because I think it is fun to watch. And it'll hurt me to listen to as I'm editing this. Or Chris, who knows? Maybe Chris will have to have the unfortunate time with editing. We'll see. But yeah, I like Solovs, and I want to see what Nilsson does. I also want to see what Klimovich does, because that'll be another interesting thing. Because second year in the AHL, he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he knows he's tough on the puck. That'll be really fun. All right, moving on from that horror show. All right, as kind of like a final, I guess a point to this very short episode. I'm at just over 20 minutes, and it's probably going to be under that. That's fine. Better for the YouTube algorithm anyway. And it also means you guys don't have to listen to this god awful shit show for long. Nick Suzuki has been named captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Honestly, I like it. He's a young rising star. He knows his stuff. He's been in the league for a while. He had a good playoff run when the Habs went on their run, and ultimately lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then became the worst team in the entire NHL. Wow. And a lot of people are like, Gallagher got robbed, and honestly, Gallagher wasn't going to get it. The refs already hate him. Suzuki just makes sense. But honestly, I like it. And that's all I'm going to really say on that. So, a 20-minute no pucks given. At least we're getting a recording out. That's all that matters. Yeah. This has been awful. But it at least shows how much Chris is needed on this show. Maybe. Who knows? Alrighty. So for my co-host who couldn't make it today, hey, he's Chris. I'm Aidan, and this has been No Pucks Given. None. 0. Bye-bye.